Hello, welcome. The brand new set just dropped. One day, all spoilers. So we're going to do the top cards from the set, and that is all we're going to be doing since this is only a 50 card set. So there's really no point in doing sleeper picks, anything like that. We're just going to cover the cards that you should know about. If you're playing in Pioneer or Modern, what cards are actually decent enough to see play. So let's get into the honorable mentions. We have Markov Baron. This might see play in Vampires and Pioneer, not Modern. Modern has better 3-drop Lords, but Pioneer, this could be a reasonable Lord for that. Danthea, New Bally is light. This card could show up in potentially auras and light pulse and stuff like that in Pioneer. The one concern I have why it didn't make top 10 is the 2 toughness, which having 2 toughness kind of really hurts this card, especially since even if you're on the play turn 3, they can stomp it immediately. Exchange a 2-drop for a 3-drop. You kind of got screwed. So definitely, I mean, it may be better than I'm thinking just because of the fact that that stomp is probably going to hit light pulse, not her. So we'll see how what works out. And Filter Out, I think, could see play in Pioneer depending on if there's ever like a Cheerios deck. So this could be like Paradox Outcome. That is a semi-combo deck in Pioneer. This could be extra digital copies, but it is 3 mana, and you get to recast. Hopefully Straw makes you draw more cards. That's pretty much the only avenue I see this card working out at. If you have any other recommendations about these cards, let me know down in the comment section. And let's get into the top 10 cards from March of the Machine Aftermath. Number 10 on my list is a speculative pick. I'm not sure if this actually is strong enough for Pioneer or Modern. It does grant hexproof to all your other permanents, which could be relevant depending on if there's a combo you're trying to protect. It could do that as well. Also, if there's ever a world where Angels switch from being a collect a company / Cable's Reconstruction list and decides to instead go into Storm the Festival, this could be a decent card for that style deck. Casting Humans, Angels off the top, pretty good effect. We've seen this quite often lately, and I think this card is reasonable, but is it strong enough? Has yet to be determined. Let's get into the next card. Number 9 on my list is Niv-Mizzet Supreme. This sees play in one deck, and that's Niv to Light. You could run a single copy of this that you can get with Bring to Light. That alone might be enough to make this see play, but outside of that one deck type, I don't think this will see any play. Because, I mean, it's possible that you run 3 Niv-Mizzet Reborn in one of these, or maybe 4 in one. I don't know. But I am interested in trying it out, seeing how it actually plays out. I have not played Niv to Light yet on my channel. So if you want me to play it, let me know down in the comment section. So then I will know to brew it for a future video. Number 8 on my list is Narset Enlightened Exile. It has prowess, 3 for 3/4 with prowess. Whenever it attacks, you may exile non-creature, non-land with mana value less than Narset's power, and you may cast it. So it can technically get a Planeswalker. So that is kind of interesting. Also, can get back a Fable the Mirror Breaker, which is also quite interesting. So it doesn't really restrict you just to, only hitting, also battles, right? It hits battles too. So this card can be quite flexible. My only concern is this card show up as the 1, maybe 2 copies as the top end threat for prowess? Has yet to be determined. I don't see this card showing up, but it is quite interesting that it could work with like turns, stuff like that, if you wanted to go a little bit higher on the mana curve. But at the same time, in Pioneer, there's not a extra turn spell that I know of that does not exile when you use it. So that's kind of how they fixed a lot of those extra turn spells. So it doesn't really work in Narset unless you discard it to like a cathartic reunion, maybe, if that is your plan, and then you just get it back from your graveyard. That could work. But that's why it's a more speculative pick at number 8. Maybe this should have been number 9 and Nimbizit, which probably has a home. This card does not have a home, but I think this card has higher upside if it does find a home. So let's get in number 7 on my list. Number 7 is Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin. Basically, this could go into 2 decks. One, it can go into Rakdos Sacrifice and Pioneer. The cat loop does put counters on this as it goes through, gets you extra cards. That is a relevant mode feature on this card. The other possibility is you go all in on the combo with Obi-Wan, and depending on how that's constructed, I want to do it personally with Cavalcade of Calamity, just because it's a sweet card that sees no play in Pioneer. I want to try it out for tank, so I want to try that. But so basically, I play Cavalcade on 2, play some more 1 power things, ramp up, get this guy down, and then attack, ping them, grow him, and then get Frixie all we want, and just infinitely combo off, ping them to death, win the game. So that is Ob Nixilis Kingpin. It could show up in Rakdos Sacrifice. It does work quite well with the Cat Loop and Mayhem Devil. That is probably more for like grindy matchups where you necessarily want a closing finisher that's not sacrifice based if they have a lot of graveyard hate. Number 6 is Urborg Scavengers. A 2 generic, 1 black, 2/2 that whenever ETBs or attack, so it has an ETB trigger, which is quite relevant. And you put a exile target card from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And it has the abilities basically of the card that you exile with it, and it gains those abilities. So if you exile Atraxa, it gets Dev Touch, Lifelink, Hit, Flying, Vigilance, I think. Yeah, something like that. So it does reward you, and it potentially can just become a very big keyword threat. So I really like this card. This card could either show up and honestly just replace Graveyard Trespasser. That's why it's number 6 on my list. Graveyard Trespasser is a very well played card. The question is it better than it? Maybe, possibly. I like it because it gets bigger even if you exile a non-creature, right? So that is actually quite relevant. Trespasser, you don't get really any bonus. You just take them off Parhelion. I like this card. I think this card could easily show up in the 60 card constructed. And it also could be noted that this could be a 3-drop in your Soul Flare deck if you're working towards this and self-milling yourself. So that's kind of sweet there too. So let's get into number 5 on my list. Since commons and uncommons are merged in with this top 5 or the top 10, I believe this is the only uncommon that's on here. And this card is absolutely strong. Now, I don't know why this card wasn't printed a rare, but I guess it's fine. There has to be some sort of number of uncommons. But basically, it easily could be a Selesnya 3-drop that gets you a land ramp spell and gains you 3 life, which actually theoretically is better than a lot of the ramp spells, right? Just because gaining 3 life and ramp actually is relevant, because the fact that your opponent, you're just trying to gain value back while your opponent is aggressively hitting you. So the 3 life can go a long way in that match, in that deck. And if you happen to mill over a bombshell card like Atraxa, like a Tally, or whatever your ramp payoff is, you can always get that back to hand and gain 3 life and continue. So I really like this card on multiple axes. It can get back early drops at instant speed. So Woe Strider for 3 mana, pretty decent at instant speed. So I think this card is actually quite pushed for constructive playability. If you have any idea how you guys want to use this card, let me know down in the comment section. And let's get into number 4 on my list. Metropolis Reformer. This card comes into one deck. That is Angels. So does Angels play a couple copies, and possibly it's really good against Rakdos mid-range. It can stop future thought seizes to protect your collected companies. If you get it down turn 2 or turn 1, or turn 2 or turn 3, you can protect your hand, which is quite nice. And the fact that whenever it's dealt damage, you gain that much life really kind of synergizes with Angels in general. The Vigilance is relevant against Wandering Emperor, so that's quite powerful. And the fact that it has flying, of course, goes over the little pesky that she makes. So I do like this card in general for Angels. Now, does it see a full set 4 of? No, probably not. Probably like a 2 of at most. Maybe it's even just 2 in the side. I don't know. But I think this card could potentially be tested out in Angels. And that's kind of where I see this card showing up. So let's get to number 3. Number 3 is arguably a card that I originally was thinking is number 1 or number 2. And I think this card is actually one of the more constructed playable cards in the set, of course. 3 mana, 3/3. Potentially can easily be discounted in Dinosaurs in general. And the fact that it gives you so much flexibility, this main board playable. And we already currently play Thrashy McGee's, right? So 3 mana, 3/4 that we can sack it at any point later in the curve to destroy an artifact or enchantment. I think this is just strictly better than that card because it gives it more flexibility. So I think it's actually worth like 3 slots in the main and for Dinosaurs. So I'm really excited about this card basically changing how Dinosaurs function. It gives us a path to hit on Greasefang. So we can blow up a Chariot and then exile their graveyard. That is actually quite powerful. The 4 life is quite important against spirits, against mono red, mono white, and same with artifact and enchantment removal. Also, it's pretty good against mono white because they do play some number of copies of in their sideboard for grinding matchups. So it can be relevant in all those matchups. Also, it's pretty relevant against Fable the Mirror Breaker. So I really like this card's flexibility in Dinosaurs, even maybe in other mono green or Gruul mid-range packages. This card could show up as well. So I'm actually quite excited about this card. And let's get into number 2. Now, number 2 is where it starts getting interesting. I think these last 2, arguably you could put them in the consideration of being the best cards over both marches of machines. So March of Machine and Aftermath. Sarkhan, Soul of Flame, actually I think is at that power level. It is super busted and strong. So basically the best curves out, of course, is him turn 3. I love the 2/4 body on this card when it's not naturally turning into his dragon form. So that is quite sweet because of the fact that a lot of red base removal. We know how big 4 or 5 toughness creatures can be, especially since, it's hard in red to remove Shieldred, and 4 toughness is just as difficult. And the other possibility, of course, is you can curve this out immediately, drop down Glorybringer, the Pro White one, Goldspan Dragon, and even the new Jeskai Dragon. There's so many possible 5 drops, potentially even 6 drops that you could drop down, in the first next few turns after playing it. And the fact that it can even play a legendary creature dragon and still be able to copy it and hit face without having legend rule issues is actually quite powerful. So I really like Sarkhan. I think this card is, like I said, one of the best cards in both of Marching Machines. That's saying a lot because the last set we had Thalion the Gitrog monster, we had Rona, and the list goes a little bit on past that point. This is arguably better potentially than all of those options. Number 1 is guaranteed to be better than everything else in both sets. So let's get into number 1 on my list. Number 1 is Jarena Dauntless General. 1 white, 1 black. It ETBs exile target player's graveyard. You may sacrifice it. Humans you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So 1 mode. humans, this is a legit reason to not be mono white anymore. I would argue that you should not be mono white if you are playing humans. You should be in Orzhov. This is the legit reason to be in Orzhov. Of course, you still could play your General Kudrow, which is also pretty cool itself. But the fact that ETB's Tormod's Crypt 2/2, pretty good rate. And the fact that you can sacrifice it, protect all your other humans from wraths like Supreme Verdict, and you protect Adeline, which is the most important card in the entire deck at closing out the game. So the fact that this protects that means that this card is legit in humans. So mono white, if you're still playing mono white after this set drops, I don't know what to tell you, because Orzhov seems like the path to go forward. You even get Dire Tactics for a better removal spell than Obfuscation, which is not good. It's not good. So I'm actually quite interested to see how Orzhov humans can be, how it impacts the format. And Fatal Push also is another option. And it gives you the option to go to Thoughtseize. There's no real reason to be mono white. I guess you can argue that you could just play the Invasion of Gomicon, and that could be your humans gain indestructible. But it takes a lot of work and effort that you're not hitting your opponent to be able to flip the battle. So I don't really think it's worth it. This is just a 2-drop. It's already on curve, and it does everything you want for humans. And like I said, also hate on Greasefang, which really helps you. So if you have any other card you would have considered for potentially modern and pioneer playable cards in this new set, Aftermath, let me know down in the comments. If you disagree with my number 1 and my number 2 pick, and you think it's not correct that I state that these are potentially better than both March Machines and March Machines Aftermath, I want to know all that down in the comment section. So until next time, when we talk about, I guess Lord of the Rings is the next quote unquote set to be dropped. So I'm probably not going to cover that, because at that point I'm pretty sure I'm done with Modern. So it would be Eldraine in the fall is basically my next boiler season kicks back up. So until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day.